Original post, May 31, 2024. I am a 41-year-old, happily married father of 5 children. My wife and I have been married for 20 years and both of us came from fractured, chaotic families. My wife's parents divorced and were both alcoholics. Her father died of liver failure and her mother has cooled off a bit and has retired. My parents went through a vicious, violent divorce when I was a child. My father moved 10 states away to get away from the craziness and my mother has never changed. Because of our experiences with violent and unstable families, my wife and I have worked extremely hard to be picture-perfect parents and spouses. We've done everything you can think of to have a perfect life for our kids. My wife is a sports coach and I'm a scoutmaster with the BSA. Our kids are healthy, engaged, and have everything they need physically and emotionally. This has been in spite of our families, not because of them. My mother is a terrible woman. She systematically abused me throughout my whole childhood, and continued to be a violent, bitter, mean, and aggressive person to me throughout my whole life. I could sit here for hours and write about the things that she's done. She used the courts to destroy the life of my father for decades. Once he was out of the house, she turned her anger at me with physical and emotional violence. When I was 16, she expelled me from the house and left me homeless. I had to go from house to house, figuring out where to live, and try to graduate high school. I ended up living with an older boy that was about 4 years older than me, and I had to engage in a sexual relationship with him in order to secure that housing. I was not gay, I did not want to be gay, and I had to endure something that destroyed me in order to not be sleeping on the street. When I turned 18, I was able to start working at a better job, and was able to get out of that bad situation and start my life from scratch. My wife and I have scratched and clawed our way into a stable, middle-class lifestyle. We both went to college at night for years and years, and we have good jobs and a house in the suburbs. Out of a sense of duty to our family, I sought to include my extended family in our lives, and permitted a relationship with strict boundaries between my mother and my children. For the most part, she has been fairly stable for about 20 years. I say stable in that we could have routine contact about once per month for that time period, with a minimum of disruptive behavior. She has never acknowledged her abuse to me as she is an extremely selfish person. Everything about our past has been left unsaid. My mother, over the last 2 years, has become completely unraveled. Her second husband decided to leave her for his own health and sanity, and she has instantly reverted back to the most cruel and the most bizarre behavior imaginable. All aspects of her life have been affected. She is calling the cops, suing him in family court, alienating large parts of her family from one another, all while trying to tell my children about why their grandfather is a bastard for how she feels about him. Once I saw this happening, I said, "That's it, not again," and took some action. At the beginning of this year, I wrote a very courteous note to my mother asking her to reevaluate the way she's been behaving to me and my family. When I tell you it was neutral and courteous, I really mean it. I checked it like 5 times. She responded by calling me terrible names and screaming bloody murder on the phone at me. I blocked her from my phone, then she did the same thing to my wife. So I informed my mother by email that I'd like to maintain distance until she works on herself in therapy or with her divorce mediator. Things lay still for about 6 months. This morning, I woke up to a series of bizarre emails from my mother asserting that she wants to see my children for their birthday, which is coming soon, and that she is giving me 24 hours to provide acceptable dates for permitting visitation or to be prepared for a legal summons to family court. I'm like, what the heck? This woman is the equivalent of a schoolyard bully, following me around in life, tormenting me non-stop until I just want to cry. The worst part of a bully is that when you ask them to lay off you for even 5 minutes, that they just take this as a cue to keep it up even more. I took one look at this and I was like, holy crap, this woman is clearly out of her mind. Now I know in the post title I said she's suing me. I work in the legal field and I know that until I've been summoned to appear, that I have not been sued. So, no, she's only threatening to sue me right now. Sorry for using the hyperbole. But I'm finding myself in the same bizarre, out-of-touch reality that everyone in this person's life finds themselves. This insane woman forced me to see my own father at a McDonald's when we were kids for 2 hours every 2 weeks, as per the court order, while she waited outside in a running car. I was only allowed to see him in this fashion because she hated him and didn't care what this would do to her own kids. There were more than a few times when the clock would strike 8 and she would come screaming into the McDonald's threatening to call the cops and have my dad arrested for kidnapping while grabbing us by the arms and pulling us out of the store. This is what she's capable of doing with family court. I had a literal, hyperventilating panic attack on the floor of my office this morning. I have sought to be respectful, mature, and use good decision-making this whole time. My wife and I have an extremely secure marriage and she is in agreement with me through all of this. I'm finding myself wishing that my mother would just die already, and just please to leave me alone. She's like this inescapable bully that will never, never under any circumstance leave a person alone until she's proven that she can hurt them. I don't even care what she's experienced in her life. I just need to be away from her. So that's my true off-my-chest story. I've been living with this shame and fear and lingering self-hatred for 30+ years, all while trying to be super dad and a great career man. I called a local family law practice today to get a referral. I'm going to ask them to send a demand letter to her, to try and get her to back off, but look at what this has come to. I have to shell money out of my own pocket to protect myself and my kids from my insane mother. I feel like Rodney Dangerfield sometimes. Ironically, the money I'm going to have to send to the lawyer for their retainer is money that I had earmarked for the kids to go to summer camp. So figure that one out. Thank you for letting me tell you my story. Just typing it out helps. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Is there any legal precedent that gives her threats in his area? OP, New York does provide an avenue for grandparents to sue for custody, although it would turn into a protracted legal fight that will cost me a lot of money and aggravation if she does. In general, the process is the punishment. I had to deal with family court and CPS, cops, etc. when I was 10 and my parents were getting divorced. If you wanted to see me literally pass out on the floor, you'd drag me back to family court. Comment 2. OP, I'm extremely sad to read this. I suppose you know that, would she sue you, this would be more likely to bring to her 40 years of horrors being exposed in court and her being denied to stay on the same planet as your kids. So, I suppose that you're here to just get it off and yes you don't deserve it and definitively yes you are paying for having been a good person. May life repay you and your mom. Oh my vibes are for you. Update 1, June 3, 2024. I posted this all on Thursday when I was experiencing a serious amount of turmoil. Since then, I've calmed down a lot and also had the good judgment to talk this over with the important people in my life. First things first, I'd like to thank everyone for the words of encouragement and support that were given. There were some surprising insights from many of the posters, and I found myself agreeing with and appreciating many of the stories of support that were posted by others. I now understand that I am not the only person with a domineering, selfish, easily enraged parent. To all the people who blamed me for being a victim of my mother, and somehow being at fault for all this, well, I want to use some strong language to you, but I'll just ask you to please think about how fortunate your life has been that you haven't experienced what I have experienced. So on to the update. As it turns out, only 2 states in the Union have codified grandparents' rights, California and New York, and I do live in New York. Basically, in New York, a grandparent does not have the automatic right to have access to grandchildren, but a grandparent does have automatic standing to file a petition to be heard in family court. The petition can be squashed, but they can file the petition. I do want to get back to this later. I had a conference with a family law attorney on Friday, and he helped me to understand the situation and craft a strategy. He was generous enough to not require a retainer unless and until I'm served with legal papers. He basically explained that the grandparent does have standing to file a petition based on a pre-existing relationship with the grandchildren, but that she would most likely not be able to overcome the desires of 2 married parents who are both exercising their judgment for the health and safety of their children. He explained that in New York, our simple desire to terminate a relationship would most likely be overcome in court. However, if we introduce some of the specific actions that she's exhibited over the last few years, familial alienation, adult humor near children, uncontrollable anger, hoarding of house cats, dangerous operation of a motor vehicle, that we would very likely prevail in a court setting. He explained that the good thing is that we had already restricted contact between our children and my mother to about once per month, and that in his experience he had never seen a court order for grandparent visitation for more often than once a month, for 1 hour per session. I try to be reasonable. So I said, okay, the worst case scenario is supervised status quo. I did broach the topic of a restraining order, and I was quickly schooled on how that works. Despite the Reddit attorneys who all assured me that I can automatically get a restraining order, well, I hate to say that you're all completely wrong. An order of protection has to be accompanied by some facilitating act of domestic violence. Because I've only been harassed and alarmed by words, I can't be granted a restraining order period. However, if my mother causes some disorderly act such as coming to my house and causing a ruckus, that could trigger an order if and only if I document it by having the police come and detail a report. So, keep that in mind next time you recommend a restraining order. They're not easy to get. The attorney recommended that I send a private cease and desist to my mother via certified mail and email. I decided to write a 2-page, brutal takedown of this woman in order to A. blow off some steam, and B. document in writing my concerns and try to get ahead of her legal maneuvering. I decided to take a two-pronged approach. First, I send this cease and desist to her on Friday at lunchtime via email and also certified mail. Then, I took a page out of her playbook and publicly scorched the earth to apply social pressure to her. I emailed and texted every single member of my extended family, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, my stepfather, and my father, and spoke to several of them to tell them exactly what was happening. Whether they wanted to hear it or not, I sent them intimate details of my mother's abuse and my decision to cut her off for the welfare of myself and my family. My reasoning there is simple: my mother's abuse thrives in closed doors and embarrassed silence. For 30 years I've had to hear, "Oh, you know, that's just the way your mother is," while people just stood by and let her act in the most insane and violent ways you can imagine. My mother got angry at my stepfather last year, and tried to run him over with her car, then crashed her car into the front door of his business screaming at him and ranting and raving in public. Do you know what people did? They surely called the police or an ambulance and had her monitored for her safety, right? No. My sister quickly threw her into her car and drove her away so that she wouldn't be arrested. My stepfather was so embarrassed that he took the crashed car, drove it to a parking spot, and then paid out of pocket for the damage to the front of his business. This is what happens in families that are dealing with a crazy person. They cover it up, hoping that it will someday get better. Well, I'm not comfortable with this anymore. I sought to publicly embarrass and pressure her for a change. Anyway, by Friday afternoon, my mother got the message and sent me emails telling me that I can stop attacking her, and maligning her to my family. She indicated that she would abandon any legal efforts to seek visitation with my children. This was a relief, but to be fair, I was almost looking forward to having a public forum to describe her antics at court. Nevertheless, it seems like she's backing off for the moment. The fallout and damage to my extended family is most likely severe and permanent. However, my wife and I discussed this fully and have decided that this is the direction we're going in. We'll just have to have holidays by ourselves if the family can't be loyal and supportive to me. On to the last point, and I really want to drive this home. In 1991, my mother conducted an incredibly vicious divorce against my father. I mean, she literally sought to destroy him, and she did. He was completely beaten by her. One of the things that my father told me about just this weekend was that at the time my grandparents on his side sought to have guaranteed visitation with us after the divorce. My mother actually went to court on that specific topic, and specifically litigated that she was the custodial mother and had sole decision-making about who the children would be around. The court ruled at the time that in fact, there was no right for a grandparent to see children, and my mother successfully was able to keep me away from my very loving and happy grandparents for years. I was only able to see them during court-mandated visitation with my own father. The law in New York changed in 2000 so the grandparents' rights came into effect, too late to help me unfortunately. I want to really drive this home, the balls on this woman to go to court on her own behalf and state in a court of law that she, as the custodial mother of children, has the sole and ultimate decision on who her children have relationships with, and then to 35 years later attempt to use the changes in law to assert that she has grandparents' rights to visitation, despite the wishes of the both parents, was too much for me to bear. That alone made me say, no way, not happening under my watch. So that's the update. Long-winded, yes, but it makes me feel good to type this out. I'm finally able to unburden the unbearable shame and embarrassment of what happened to me to members of my family, and I won't allow myself to be ignored anymore. I'm 41 and my selfish, insane baby boomer asshole mother is in her mid-70s and has no power over me anymore. I'm sick and tired of bottling this up. Anyone who doesn't like it? They can go suck an egg. I deserve to have loyal and faithful people in my life. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Isn't her case now public record? If she believes that only custodial parents should dictate a child's relationship with extended family, isn't that something a lawyer can look up and use? OP, I have started the FOIL request at the family court where the divorce was adjudicated, however, this will likely take months and months to get the records. I may read them just to more fully understand my family's history. Comment 2, man, I am so unbelievably glad that you stood up for yourself and that you and your wife are united in standing up to your extended family. That's not easy to do. Nobody deserves to be treated like that, but abusers are so good at making you believe that you're the one exception. Story 2, why doesn't CPS take this woman's baby? Original post, December 31, 2023. So a while ago, we went out to a bar. I didn't drink, just went to watch a show they were playing, but it was fun. I went with my best friend and her friend. After like 4 hours, we went back to the new girl's place. She had left her 7-month-old daughter alone the entire time. She lied to me and said the baby was 1.5, that makes it better. I stupidly did not call the cops, because my friend begged me not to, but I did call CPS the next day. From what I heard, they did visit her and have been talking to her. So flash forward to today, my friend comes to visit me and brings that girl, since I've been feeling a bit unwell. Well, on the way, after finding out they were visiting me, she has my friend turn the car around and goes to pick up her daughter ASAP after hearing it was me they were going to visit. So she'd left her alone again and only went to go get her because she was probably scared I'd call the cops. My friend called to tell me this after and to say she's not going to be friends with the girl anymore. But while they were actually here, in my opinion, that baby is too thin and small for her age, her diaper was immensely full and she had a bed rash. I changed her because her mom was too busy with my wine. Honest question, why does this chick still have her kid after I already called? It's been a few weeks, if my mom brain isn't lying to me. I thought my baby was 6 weeks old a week ago, she's 8 weeks old. Do I need to call CPS again? What do I say because whatever I said last time didn't work? Edit, I called like 30 minutes after they said they left. She indeed left the baby alone again and got a call from the cops. My friend refused to drive her back home, she had to Uber, so I'm not yet sure of what's happened, but this was an hour ago. I'm sure she'll talk to one of my friends in the morning and relay whatever happened, but it's probably not good for her. Hoping it's good news for the baby. The girl does have a normal loving family, that don't talk to her that often because she's always drinking and doing wild things, so if they do take the baby, I doubt she'll go to strangers. She just kept mentioning at one of the hangouts how her family is so judgy, and doesn't know how to mind their business. Although I did offer to the cops to take in the baby if needed. Maybe a little nuts on my part, I have an 8-week-old and I'm a single mom. But I'm a great mom and she'd be well taken care of. I doubt that's how it works or that I'll be taken into consideration, but yeah. I've been up and thinking about this situation too. It stresses me out because I'm worried they won't do anything. Edit 2, I also informed them of the last time this happened and asked them to report the bad diaper rash. I'm sure that poor baby's diaper was extremely full when they found her, so I probably didn't even really need to mention it. I forgot to say here, but the day she left her alone the first time that I saw, the baby had shit all over herself. Mom still decided to pour people shots before trying to do anything. I truly regret only doing a CPS call that time. Lesson learned, the hard way, that if needs to be a police call. Relevant comments. Comment 1, if you think the baby is in immediate danger, call the police. CPS works with local police departments. In my profession, we call both. OP, will do. She's going out with another friend of mine tonight, so I'm going to take a wild guess and say the baby is going to get left alone. I'll call once my friend lets me know they're headed out. Comment 2, can your friend who knows she left the baby alone back you up? A call from a second individual couldn't hurt. OP, I don't think she would help. She's very against CPS for some reason. She actually got angry that I called originally, but now only sort of agrees. Comment 3, as a former CPS caseworker, removal is a big deal. It's the last resort. CPS also needs proof that will hold up in court. CPS can't just decide on its own to remove a child, they have to present their case to the court on why the child should be removed and the judge has to order it. I'm not at all saying you're lying, but one person saying that the baby was left alone is not enough to warrant removal. OP, that makes a lot of sense. Not trying to be judgy of CPS, but it was so hard to see that horrible diaper rash on that poor baby. I should be relaxing right now due to some health issues, but I'm over here fuming. I'll help with the proof by calling the cops on her when she goes out tonight with some of my friend group. I don't have a doubt in my mind that the baby is getting left alone again. Update 1, January 1, 2024. So my friend isn't the best at iterating things and gave me some unclear info, but I did get an update. The girl, Rachel, never called my friends to let them know what happened, but my close friend contacted Rachel's sister and got some info. So Rachel, the mom of the baby, got arrested for freaking out on the cops. I guess she pushed one of them. They had taken the baby, who was found screaming her head off. Rachel's sister said her parents are going to try to get custody of the baby. Not sure what's going to happen otherwise. If there's any significant update, I'll post something. My one friend is mad at me, and the friendship is probably over, but my close friend is not. I'm going to talk to her about how, even though she's wary of CPS, I'm not okay with the fact that she didn't do anything to help the baby. I'm sort of emotionally over the friendship too. I feel like I got left with a lot of drama when I already have a ton on my plate. Don't get me wrong, I don't regret helping, but I needed them to be better people and step up when I need rest and healing. I have a baby that relies on me being healthy and alive. I do feel like Rachel loves her baby. I didn't mention it in the post, but she spoils her kid rotten with gifts. But then doesn't change or feed her consistently. I think there's some mental health issues at work, and it's probably better that her parents are going to try taking over. I don't know how probable that is, but hopefully. Overall, I'm happy the baby is going to be safer. But sad that she probably is already traumatized. I'm also going to listen to my therapist and try to choose my company more carefully. I do feel like there's a lot of drama in my life, because I choose people who I want to help and that aren't stable or happy in their lives. And then I end up with friends that don't do anything about severe neglect, or my very difficult baby daddy. This situation made me think a lot. And made me very sad. I hope the baby will be okay. Edit, I forgot to add, but my friend is mad at me because they'd gone to the New Year's Eve rave and did ecstasy and Molly, so they were scared to get into trouble. Not sure if they drug test in jail, but yeah, Rachel is also on drugs, so that poor baby is probably going with her grandparents. At least I really hope so. I've also realized that I just need more mature and calm friends. I indeed had wild party days, but those are behind me and I'm focused on my daughter. Not all of my friends are like this, but about half are my old party friends. I think we're just not compatible anymore. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Giving excessive gifts is a sign of abuse. The abuser knows they have been abusive, in this case by leaving a helpless infant alone, hungry, and dirty. To assuage their guilt, they bombard the victim with presents, compliments, and affectionate gestures. But eventually, their innately selfish nature wins out and they go back to the abuse. And the cycle continues. Just because your friend buys her baby gifts does not mean she loves her baby. If she loved that baby, she would not leave her unattended for hours. If she personally was not capable of caring for her, but genuinely wanted her safe and happy, she would leave the baby with her parents or someone else who could take good care of her. Yeah, any so-called friend who supports leaving an infant alone is not a good friend and needs to be out of your life. Thank you for doing what is best for the baby. You did the right thing, OP, she's not my friend. Had to comment that LOL. I think I do feel a little guilty for causing a crap storm, but I don't feel guilty for the baby being rescued. I really hate people and wish a lot of them didn't have kids. How hard is it to care for your baby? Now I know raising a baby is hard, but like not abandoning your baby for multiple hours at a time, and changing a diaper every so often isn't that big of an ask. Good for OP for taking action to help the baby. Hopefully, she'll have a good childhood living with her grandparents who seem to actually about her. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.